Spoiler warning. The following discussion will contain spoilers. We recommend checking out the movie first, then coming back to hang with us. But if you don't care about that, glad to have you here.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are your real movie guys. It's that time again, ladies and gentlemen. It's Real Terror Month. Real Terror Month is a special month where we celebrate all your favorite horror movies. On today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Halloween. 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night, 1963, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois to kill again. Real Terror Month is our baby. I personally love Real Terror Month. I look forward to it. We did one last year. I thought it was really successful. I love taking a look at the Friday the 13th movies. Who better to go take a look at Michael Myers now? Halloween has a very special place in my heart. I would dare say Halloween is probably one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Just talking about this one, not talking about the series. This is an instant classic regardless of the holiday or not. I find myself always coming back to this movie.
It's definitely one of those movies that it's enjoyable to watch, and it's also weird too to think about how long ago this movie came out.
Now let's talk about what makes this work. Besides the character of Michael Myers, I think there's a lot of things that make Halloween such a spectacular horror movie. You could give it credit as probably one of the founding fathers of the horror formula that we've come to expect later within different horror movies. You have Your Last Girl, The Stalker, all those tropes that we've come to know and love kind of pseudo started with this movie. For better or worse, you know, take that for what it is. Even in this series, I think it damages it somewhere along the line. But don't forget, Halloween, this 1978 release. Again, 1978 this came out. This movie did it the best, in my opinion. Now, John, let's talk about the titular character, Michael Myers. What do you think of Michael Myers? Now, do you like his look? I think it's personally intimidating. What do you think necessarily about it?
No, I think it's intimidating, and I also think it's just like vanilla almost, but so scary. Like, it's one of those things where they didn't do too much to like his costume or the mask or anything, but just his presence is creepy.
We could talk about the legend behind the mask. You know, it was a William Shatner mask that they painted white. Most people know that. I'm not going to go into that. I think a lot of it has to do with it's a white mask that's expressionless. Deep eyes, you know, these black circles into hell, essentially. It really is a scary mask when you look at it. In this movie in particular, it's terrifying. And this movie really likes to showcase that with a lot of different camera work and the cinematography.
And also the way that they just open up this movie. He kills his sister, but you don't know anything yet, and you're just like, who is this guy? And what's he doing? And then all of a sudden, you see that it's like a little kid, and you're like shocked and in awe. Like, I feel like that's a perfect way to start like in a horror movie.
Something even more interesting than that is he's never really referred to as Michael Myers. He's actually referred to just as the Shape. Why does this all happen? Why does this whole events of Michael Myers going on a killing spree, killing people? There's really no reason given. It just happens. And if you ask me, I think that's more terrifying than giving him a motive. He just wanted to kill a bunch of people. That's more intimidating than I think the backstories that are to come later down the line. This movie works singularly apart from everything else because of that premise. You know, they say, keep it simple, stupid. This movie really knew that was the best way to go because that makes it just that much more scary because you don't have a reason as to why this is happening.
The whole movie, it's just like about him coming home. So I feel like that's a very interesting part too, where like we don't really know why exactly he wants to go home, but we just know that he's headed home.
Yeah, we know where he's heading roundabouts and that he's an unstoppable monster, which also plays into the Michael Myers character. You could see a great Terminator-esque influence of this character. Michael Myers can't be stopped. He is literally the Terminator coming after you. They shoot him, they throw him out windows, they do whatever they got to do to him. Man gets right back up.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too. Like the way they also shoot him, his size looks intimidating. The way he kind of just lurks around places is very intimidating.
Right, so let's talk about some of the camera work here because a lot of this had to do, I think, with the budget. This is a very low budget horror movie. John Carpenter famously working on a shoestring budget to put something together. One of my favorite scenes is actually the girls that are walking across the sidewalk. Michael Myers like appears out from behind the corner, then he disappears. He goes to look and no one's there. If you look really close and you freeze the frame, you can actually see cigarette smoke fly into the frame because John Carpenter was actually smoking on set, which I think that's nuts that they even left that in the movie. You just see like a little whiff of like cigarette smoke flying towards you. Again, John Carpenter knew what he had to work with, which was nothing. So how do you work around this? The cinematography is by far one of the most underestimated things I've ever seen in film. They make Michael Myers terrifying. They really capture that whole stalker aspect. Essentially, most of the movie is just him watching Laurie Strode. He's watching all the different characters go about their day. We really don't see too much of Michael. Like, we see glimpses of him here and there. We always see it from his perspective. They have the two eye hole perspective with the mask. Compounded on top of that, they use this heavy breathing. You always hear him breathing, which I think is incredibly disturbing, where it's just like... feels so raw and so much energy behind that. It's almost voyeuristic because, you know, horror movies are always associated with sexual explicit content. Him like peeping through a window, watching someone, and you hear the heavy breathing. It's almost like sexually aggressive in nature. It's really disturbing when you really think about what's going on in these scenes. Without the combination of the costume, cinematography, and just that audio cues, it wouldn't be like he is now. And I think it's fantastic.
For such a low budget, I feel like they worked very well to like what they had to deal with, like the house that they use and like the street that they use, which is actually like in Florida. Even when you go look at it like nowadays, that same street and the same house, like I can see myself walking down that street. It's like one of those things that's so realistic, and I feel like the town almost plays it to like into it, which is like
right,
always important.
No, that's a good point. I'm glad you bring that up. The small setting is almost a character in of itself. The town, there's not many locations. We spend a lot of time with not much happening, where we just see Michael's, like I said earlier, watching everyone. But John Carpenter does such a good job setting up everything that once we get to the finale, you know where Laurie's going to go when she has to get away from Michael. You know certain things are blocked, like a rake is blocking the door, or this area is cut off. Like, we have a good sense of space of where we are and what's going on. And the whole like cozy town setting, and I think really just adds to this almost perverted sense of emotion that's going on here. Michael Myers, being this monster that he is violating this town with his presence. This cozy, warm place that's supposed to be friendly and open to everyone takes on a whole different meaning when you see this giant man lurking in the shadows.
And where some people will see him and some people won't.
Is it realistic? Probably not. I would say a lot of the times where a man's just standing behind a bush and then he's out of nowhere. I think it works. I think it's still grounded enough to where it's semi-realistic, that something's just not right. And again, I think that adds to the whole experience. Then on top of that, you have to compound the amazing score. Of course, the epic opus known as John Carpenter's Halloween theme song that continues to play to this day in the Halloween movies is a fantastic accompaniment when something happens or something's building. The music just always builds tension.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it adds so much to it. Music in the background, like you almost always know something is going to happen at that time, but you're always just on your edge of your seat too.
We've been complimenting the cinematography, the sound design. Now, the acting is not good in this movie.
Oh no.
At all. I hate to say it to some extent. I feel bad. Jamie Lee Curtis, this is one of her first roles, playing Laurie Strode. She's not that great. She's a young girl. She's getting her feet wet. I will say, there is one good actor in this movie. Donald Pleasance as Loomis steals the show because he has to sell the severity of what's happening to everyone. He doesn't chew the scenery quite just yet. He's still a little grounded. You know, he's a little on edge for a good reason. He knows what he's dealing with as far as a monster. But Donald Pleasance does his best to try and elevate this material, and I think it walks away with a very memorable character. His interactions with Michael in this movie lay the groundwork for things to come for years. Donald Pleasance just leaves a mark on you when he's on screen.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's a great character. The rest of the character cast, there's so much focused in on them too, like part of the story, and their meanings aren't like put together that well.
I'm going to take a step back from that, and I'm going to say they are boring. They are meandering at times, but I think that's what makes them so engaging, this whole story. They fit in with this whole small town feel. It's just another day. It's pointless conversations, arguing about boys or where they're going to, what house they're doing. Pointless conversation to the whole of this movie, but that's what makes it feel so relatable. And Jamie Lee Curtis, I gave her some crap a little bit about being kind of bland as an actress as Laurie, but she has such an engaging personality to her. She's energetic, she's happy, she's kind. You're rooting for her throughout the whole movie, and when shit hits the fan and Michael's coming after her when she's babysitting the kids, you want her to survive. You're worried about her. Not so much the other characters because they're all kind of crappy, which again, that's a horror movie trope that's going to be for years and years to come. But again, when it comes to Laurie, she's a great heroine in my opinion. A little bit of women empowerment before women empowerment was cool. The cliffhanger ending, John. This movie is famous for its cliffhanger ending of Loomis shooting Michael Myers and him falling out of the back of the house. And I think this movie ends brilliantly with that, where you just hear this breathing and you see someone looking on. If you were to tell me that this was the only movie, this was the only appearance of Michael Myers, I think that would have been perfect, and I didn't need to see what happened next. Do you know something about Halloween? There's not many kills at all in this movie. While some may see that as as a negative. Sure, to some extent. I don't see that as a negative because each kill in this movie feels that more impactful. Each kill is built up beautifully with some tension. They create this sheer suspense and terror behind them. You know, a lot of slashers down the road and that try to emulate Halloween tend to just like knocking people left and right. Even Michael Myers will be guilty about that in the future. In this movie, there's only like 3 or 4 kills, but the ones that matter, you remember. They get stuck in your head because there's such a build-up and a crafting behind it. It shows something that a lot of horror movies, I think, forget down the line in the future. Sometimes restraint's a good thing, not just because of budget reasons, but because it improves your story, makes the events that much more important.
When they're just killing off characters just to kill off random people to get more gore, it also takes away from something.
Right, and that compounds with my favorite kind of horror movie is a terror movie. And I think that's what Halloween more so is. I know it's called a slasher, which it is. In a way, it's the birth of the slasher villain. And at the same time, I think this is more of a great terror movie in lines with like something like Jaws or The Strangers, where it's not necessarily about the horror events that are happening. It's more about that suspense that sits in the pit of your stomach. I can't praise this movie enough, man. Even after all these years, a movie from 1978 is 9 times out of 10 better than most horror movies I'm going to watch. Before we go to our final score, I got something special we're bringing back. I know you've missed John. I know I've missed it. I'm pretty sure the people at home have missed it. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring you the Real Kill Award. The Real Kill Award is a special award that we give to our favorite kill of the movie. John, tell me, which moment would you like to grant the Real Kill Award?
I will go with where Michael kills Bob. I feel like the kill is one of those kills in this movie that definitely stuck out to me. I really like that one.
I think there's a lot of iconic history behind this kill. You have Bob, he's like wandering in the hallway after sleeping with the girl. He's just wandering around in a stranger's house, which that's a whole nother whatever. Michael lifts him up by his neck and stabs him and pins him into the wall. And he does the most famous thing that became so iconic with Michael Myers. And again, with horror movies to come, he does the famous head tilt where he looks at his handiwork. He goes back and forth. Talk about iconic. I think that's probably one of my favorite kills.
Yeah, I thought the kill was just when they think about the kill, I feel like that adds more to it.
I would like to nominate for my Real Kill Award, Linda, killed by Ghost Sheet Michael Myers. I think for a lot of fans, this is probably one of the other most iconic kills from this movie. We see Linda waiting in bed for her boy to come back. Suddenly, there's a giant sheet wearing her boyfriend's glasses, and it's Michael Myers under the sheet, but she doesn't realize it the whole time. She's like trying to tease him, trying to seduce him. Michael's not having any of that. He's just biding his time. A little bit of dark humor, which I can always appreciate. Laurie calls her on the phone, and when she answers the phone, she actually starts getting strangled by Michael Myers with the phone cord. Laurie thinks she's just having sex, and she dies.
Grunting.
Yeah, she's like grunting, making noises. It's so dark and funny at the same time. I love it. I think it's a great kill. That iconic image of Michael Myers in a giant sheet with glasses just really works in this movie. It's memorable.
Definitely a Halloween costume.
So I think we're at that point, though. We're going to give our final scores. I'm going to give Halloween an A+.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
This is an iconic and legendary movie. I dare you to find a better film than this as far as horror. It's up there. It inspired clearly a generation, even to now, of horror movies. It's a low-budget masterpiece that took everything that it needed to and made it work. It's almost ageless in a lot of ways because you can still relate to a lot of these moments nowadays with someone just stalking you or following you. Michael Myers, this is what cemented him as a horror icon, and John Carpenter created a masterpiece that won't be forgotten. John, where do you stand with this film?
I give this film an A. I feel like it was one of those good movies. Some of the things brought it down. Overall, a really good horror movie. Definitely one everybody has to check out.
Michael Myers drew a lot of people in. He's a creepy psycho killer, but people seem to love him, just like Freddy did, just like Jason did. They have these cult followings. Did bring us Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie and Donald Pleasance as Loomis, who are iconic characters that will forever be reminded about down the road, especially when we talk about Halloween 2 in the next video. Keep joining us for Real Terror Month. We'll see you next time.
See you.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, we should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.